What's going on, man? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ron, and if you're new here, I go over NBA content, NFL content, a little bit of UFC content, but we got the NBA draft coming out on Wednesday, and that's got me hyped, man. It's exciting times around here. We got LaMelo Ball at the top, Anthony Edwards at the top. A lot of interesting stuff, a lot of interesting trade rumors. Chris Paul just got traded to the Phoenix Suns. A lot of stuff going on in the NBA, and this is a great time of year, fellas. Everybody just breathe this in.
Whole world, look around you. Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here.
Now, with all that being said, you got the shining guys at the top, but this is one of those classes that doesn't have a Zion Williamson, it doesn't have a LeBron James, it doesn't have that it guy like a Ben Simmons. But after those top 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, even past the lottery, as a guy who, I'm in college, I'm a degenerate gambler. I like to watch these college basketball games. I watch a disgusting amount of college basketball games, and I'm telling you guys, I think that this year more than other years, in the back end, I think there's a lot of very good quality role players, guys who could be starters in the league, guys like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Duncan Robinson. I think there's a lot of guys like that in the draft, and that's why we're talking about sleepers today. This is going to be the diamonds in the rough, the gems of this draft class. I think there's a lot of guys, a lot of top-end talent that's going to go later on in the draft. So today I'm going to go over my top 3 sleepers in this NBA draft, man. If you're new here, make sure you go down below and subscribe and like the video if you're fucking with the content. Let's go.
Himself. Thomas, shake, crossover, step back, at the buzzer. Yeah.
The first guy on this list is Myles Powell, and I've been dying to tell you guys about him. His career was the most altered by there not being a March Madness and there being COVID. I'm telling you guys, this guy was robbed of the media hype he would have gotten in March. Right now, he's being mocked outside the top 50 picks, and you'll be lucky if you go on Google right now and you search up Myles Powell, or not even that, NBA draft, mock draft or whatever. Myles Powell most of the time is not even getting drafted in these mocks. He's a guy he's like a fringe top 50 undrafted kind of guy, and they're doing my boy wrong. This is a guy who, as a senior, was a first-team All-American Big East Player of the Year and was about to enter the tournament with Seton Hall as a 3 seed. I'm telling you right now, this is a guy who all he needed to do was take Seton Hall to the Sweet 16, Final Four, Elite 8, in that range, take over one game, and boom, he's getting drafted at the back end of the first round like a Carson Edwards. Because I'm telling you, he's that kind of scorer. He has 12 career 30-point games and 1 40-point game. He's everything you look for in a scorer. He's beating opposing defenders off the dribble. He finishes through contact, and he's just a playmaker. He makes plays at the rim, but his most special ability is beating defenders with his three-point. He's going to step back from 3. He's going to take a pick and run into the corner, shoot a 3. He takes contested threes that he makes. He takes them from Steph Curry range. He's a guy who is a lethal scorer. Now, some of the critics are going to point at his 30% three-point percentage as a senior. Here's the thing. This is a guy who's getting double-teamed all the time, and he's at Seton Hall. He's one of the only guys that can create his own shot. So, of course, he's taking 9+ three-pointers per game, and his three-point percentage is going to go down because that's what's being asked of him at Seton Hall. In the NBA, they're not going to ask him to do those same things, so his three-point percentage is going to go back up. Now, we can look at him as a junior. He shot 37% from 3 as a junior, and it's undeniable he's a lethal three-point shooter. It's not even in question. And I like his game because he does take off the dribble threes, but he's a great off the ball offensive playmaker. He's going to run around screens. He's going to run around the defense. Because he's been so accustomed to getting double teamed for the last 2 years, is that he's found ways off the ball to be crafty, find shots, get open shots off the catch and off the shoot. He's a guy who is going to score buckets at will, and he takes over games. Probably his best game ever is he took over this game against Kentucky in his junior year, where he went 6 of 11 from 3, and he outshined a guy like Tyler Hero, who went 0 from 6 from 3, and he won in overtime 84-83 against a top 15 team in Kentucky. Now remember, this is a guy who is a junior on a Seton Hall team that was a 10 seed that year, and they went to Kentucky and beat them. This is no fluke. This is a legit guy playing against NBA talent on Kentucky, beating them. And he has that clutch gene, that jog gene I'm talking about. And all he needed was to showcase that in the March Madness NCAA tournament. I'm telling you, all he needed was a 30-point game and a Sweet 16 run at the least. And he would have been on Bleacher Report everywhere. And people would have started talking about him as this NBA draft guy. Could he be a Buddy Hield type of guy, Fred VanVleet type of guy? You know what I mean? The guys that go 4 years in college come into the NBA and produce. Now, the main knock that people have is, despite all the stuff he does on offense, the main knock that they have on him is his lack of size and athleticism on defense. That's why he's going in the late second as an undrafted type player. And to me, I think that we have to discount his defense because he was asked to do so much on offense. And anything that you saw in college of him being a bad defender is simply because he's shooting 9 threes a game. They're asking him to take all the shots, all the big shots, to score at will. And when you take a step back and you look at him as a junior, he actually played pretty well as a defender. He was 5th in defensive win shares in the Big East, and he did what he had to do. I'm not saying he's an elite defender, but 5th in the conference in defensive win shares, And when you're on Seton Hall, there's not great defenders on Seton Hall around you. If you're the guy on Seton Hall, you're guarding against the guy who's the best point guard or best guard on the other team. He's not shying away from good players. And in the Big East, there's plenty of talent out there. There's Villanova, who always has good guards. He's defended against guys like Jalen Brunson, guys like Dante DiVincenzo. These are studs in the Big East. This is no joke of a conference. That's why I think that as much as defensive questions there are, I think late second round to undrafted is an unfair grade for him. To me, I think that at his ceiling, he's CJ McCollum. At worst, he's like a bench energizer, like a young Dion Waiters. And I think personally, I would take him somewhere in the early second round, late first. After Myles Powell, we got probably the coldest white dude in the NBA draft, man. This is Payton Pritchard, and the guy just wins. He shuts down opposing arenas. He went into Washington last year, pulled up, overtime winner. He sinks big shots. He makes big shots, and he's probably one of the most decorated Oregon basketball players of all time. As a junior, he won the Pac-12 tournament MVP. As a senior, he won the Pac-12 Player of the Year, the Point Guard Player of the Year, which is the Bob Cousy Award, and he was a first-team All-American as a senior. This is a guy who was the best point guard in college basketball last year. He was a 4-year starter at a school as prestigious as Oregon. He played around guys like Dylan Brooks, Chris Boucher, Jordan Bell. And with them, he went to a Final Four, a Sweet 16, and he won the Pac-12 championship twice. I don't even want to think about it. If there was a March Madness last year, they would have been, I think, a 3 seed or a 4 seed, and Oregon would have probably made a run. Payton Pritchard, he's a gamer, and he comes from a culture of winning games. Now, on the court, if we're analyzing him in the film room, he's a great scorer and playmaker. He's a master at the pick and roll. He's super crafty. He's gonna read the pick and roll. He's gonna go inside, and if it's not there, he's gonna kick it out. And on top of that, he'll take the pick and roll, and he'll create his own shot and shoot from 3. He led the Pac-12 in both assists and points per game, averaging 20.5 and 5.5 a night, and was only 18th in turnover percentage. He just doesn't make mistakes. He's not careless with the ball. He's cool and calculated in the pick and roll. He's everything that you want coming off the bench or as a starting point guard in the NBA. And what propelled his scoring the most was a three-pointer off the dribble. This is why he was one of the most electric players to watch in college basketball last year. He shot 41.5% from 3 as a senior, and at the very least, his consistent 3-ball will transfer to the NBA, and the problem is that his main concern is his defending. In the NBA, he's a below-average athlete at 6'2", 190 pounds, and he's Caucasian. As a white man, we're at a disadvantage when it comes to the athleticism. It seems like every guy who's white and under 6'5" is a below average athlete, but that's just what it is. I feel Payton Pritchard on that, but here's the thing. The guy, he's a gamer. He gives a full 100% when he's on the court. Just because of that, he consistently comes up big on defense and in transition. In college, they ran a lot of full court press. They ran a lot of zone. They ran even in man-to-man. He's going to give you the most effort, and he catches people sleeping. He'll poke up the ball when they're sleeping on offense. He'll routinely run out to a pass and tip it and get a steal. This is a guy who gives full effort on every play. He gives full effort on every play, and I think the reason why he's being ticked as a defender is because in his senior season, he was asked to do a lot on offense. Before averaging 20 points per game, his highest scoring season was only like 14, 15 points per game as a pure point guard type player. Before his senior season, he led the Pac-12 in minutes played, and he finished top 6 in defensive win shares twice as a junior and as freshman. For me, defense is a question. He's going to give full effort 100% of the time. He's going to get those scrappy steals, those scrappy tip passes. He's not going to ever sleep on defense. This is a guy you can count on full effort all the time from. And for me, his pro comparison is pretty easy. I think it's Fred VanVleet, and I think he really can develop into a 17-6 kind of guard, just like Fred VanVleet is. And I think that eventually he'll have a big role on a winning team, just like Fred VanVleet or like a Jalen Brunson, a guy who's a pure point guard that's going to score points somewhere between the 15 and 20 range, give you a couple of assists, not turn the ball over, and play good D. Now, this last player has a special spot in my heart. As a big man, it's hard to find guys in college that are interesting to watch as big men, and they don't get a lot of hype. But this guy, Daniel Oturu, was my favorite dude to watch in college, and he plays on Minnesota. Not a lot of people are watching these games, and they have a sick gym, though, by the way. They have the sides of the benches that go down below. Kind of like how they have it in the tournament seating. It's pretty crazy, and shooters shoot better in Minnesota. But because of like they don't have as much stuff behind the backboard. But that's just what you pick up when you watch nonsense Minnesota games. But he did play in the Big Ten. Now, when we get down to business, when we talk about Daniel Oturu as a prospect, he's the modern big man in my eyes. He can score in the post. He's actually an elite post scorer, but in the NBA, you're not going to have a lot of post ups. But he's great in the pick and roll, and he scores effortlessly in the post with either hand. And that's also off of putbacks, offensive rebounds. He's a great scorer in the paint. And people want to point to the lack of post-ups in NBA, like I was saying. His 3 has been rapidly getting better since he was a freshman. And by the time that he's in the NBA, I think he's going to have above average three-pointer for a big. He has a natural stroke and he shot 36.5% from 3 on 52 attempts as a sophomore. After, as a freshman, he only had the confidence to shoot just 2 3-pointers. That's a lot of progression from year 1 to year 2, and I can only imagine what goes from year 2 to year 3 in the NBA, to year 1 in the NBA, to year 2 in the NBA. This is a guy who's going to improve. It's clear that he works on his game, and he's going to get more comfortable shooting in the NBA, and he's going to be a guy that can work on the perimeter and inside. Now, not only does he have an elite offensive game that can stretch out to the three-point line, he's an elite defender. He's made great strides as a rim protector and active rebounder, and he doesn't give up on plays. He's a high-effort guy on the boards, and he's a great shot blocker for a guy who's 6'10". He has a 7-foot wingspan, and the Big Ten isn't any joke. He has guys like Jalen Smith, Xavier Tillman, and Caleb Weston, all guys who are going to get their name called in the NBA draft. And he still managed 11.3 rebounds per night and 2.5 blocks per night, which led the Big Ten in both categories. He's not a guy who's going to be sleeping on defense. He's fighting for boards. He's boxing out everybody. He's trying to block any shot that comes into the paint. He's a guy who's going to give you constant effort, and he's a guy that can lock down the paint at only 6'10". Now, when you think about all that, it's hard to understand why the NBA draft boards and mocks have him going in the middle of the second round, past the top 30 picks. The guy is an elite defender. He's an elite scorer in the post. He has the potential to shoot threes. He's a modern NBA center, and I would understand if he was a senior. If he was a senior, fine, but he's a sophomore and he's only 20 years old. That means he has plenty of room to grow, and he's shown that he's going to work on his game. He got better as a free throw shooter. He got better as a three-point shooter from freshman to sophomore. He scored more points from freshman to sophomore. He became such a bigger name in the NBA draft media that he declared in his sophomore year. So you take all this when he's a guy producing as just a sophomore in a stacked conference like the Big Ten. The Big Ten almost sent like 9 teams to the tournament last year. Now, at Daniel Oturu's absolute ceiling, I think that he's a guy that could be like Anthony Davis, an elite defender, rebounder, post scorer, three-point shooter, but that is at the absolute high end of his talent. You guys are going to kill me for comparing him to Anthony Davis, so I'm going to say that on the lower end, he's probably like he has shades of LaMarcus Aldridge, and I think that he kind of profiles a little bit like Serge Ibaka in a way. One of those guys that's going to get rebounds, play good defense, stretch out to the three-point line, and post guys up when he needs to. If you made it this far, man, I appreciate it. Make sure to go down below and subscribe and leave a like. I'm super excited for this NBA draft. If you guys have any takes on the NBA draft, let me know down in the comments below. I might drop one more NBA draft video, so if you guys have any suggestions, leave that in the comments too. And as always, you can find me at @RonStewart_ on Twitter if you want to DM me or follow me on there. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.